It always starts the same way. A soft voice, a familiar face, a simple request.
Can you just help me with this one thing?
You're the only one I can count on.
If you really care, you'll do this.
And suddenly, you've been pulled into a silent war you didn't even know you were fighting. You're not holding a weapon, you're holding someone else's guilt, their shame, their broken responsibilities, now disguised as your duty. But here's the truth. There are things people ask of you that don't come from love. They come from projection, from manipulation, from unconscious fear. And when you say yes to them, you don't just lose time, you lose yourself. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So what happens when someone asks you to carry something that was never yours to begin with? What happens when you confuse loyalty with self-abandonment? You age, you shrink, you become the lifeline in a storm you were never meant to enter. This isn't just about relationships. This is about your soul. Because every request is also a test of your boundaries, a test of your peace, a test of whether you'll betray yourself to protect the comfort of others. And some requests, no matter how softly they're spoken, are violent. They don't come to support your path, they come to pull you off it. In this video, we're going to name them. The 5 kinds of requests that seem innocent on the surface, but are secretly designed to drain your soul, and why Carl Jung warned us to never comply with them blindly. Stay until the end, not for the drama, but for your peace, for your self-respect, for the version of you who's tired of saying yes to what slowly kills them. Let's begin.
Request number 1. Can you carry this for me?
It always starts with a favor. Something small, something temporary, something only you can help with. But suddenly, you're carrying something heavy, something sticky, and it's not even yours. You didn't break it, but now they want you to fix it. You didn't plant the seed, but you're expected to harvest the storm. This is what Carl Jung meant when he spoke of projection. People would do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. So instead, they hand their soul to you and call it love. But love doesn't look like this. Love doesn't say, "Here, hold my wounds while I keep cutting myself. Here, carry my shame so I don't have to feel it. Here, solve my chaos so I never have to grow." That's not love. That's emotional outsourcing. That's self-neglect, wrapped in guilt and labeled help. You were not born to be everyone's emotional janitor. You are not a backup plan. You are not a rescue boat for people who refuse to swim. But still, you said yes, didn't you? Because it felt noble. Because saying no felt cruel. Because somewhere inside you, you confused sacrifice with virtue. And they knew it. They saw the light in you. And instead of protecting it, they drained it. But the soul has limits. Even the sun burns out. You're not here to hold the broken pieces of others while your own center collapses. You're not here to play parent, priest, or savior to people who have no intention of saving themselves. Help that costs your peace is not help. It's betrayal. So ask yourself, who are you carrying that was never yours to carry? What story are you trying to rewrite that was never yours to begin with? What burden have you called love when it was really self-erasure? You can care, you can support, but you cannot carry, not if it costs your soul. Because one day, you'll realize the rope you were holding together for everyone else was actually the noose tightening around your own peace. Drop the weight, not because you don't care, but because you finally do. About yourself.
Request number 2. Can I borrow just a little? Calm, atmospheric. It's never just a little. Not the first time, not the second, not the third. It always begins with softness, a gentle voice, a message wrapped in emotion. I just need a little help, only this once. I'll pay you back soon, I promise.
But what they're really borrowing isn't money, it's access to your time, to your inner stability, to your sense of safety. And once the door is cracked open, they walk through it with both hands out. Carl Jung warned us that when we don't know ourselves, we become vulnerable to the unconscious needs of others. They invade, not because they're evil, but because they have no boundaries within themselves, so they borrow yours. They borrow your calm because they lost their own. They borrow your savings because they never learned discipline. They borrow your presence because they can't sit alone with themselves. And they don't stop because you don't stop them. Why? Because you're generous, because you're kind, because you hope it will be different this time. But tell me, how many just this once became always? How many times did temporary become permanent? When someone borrows money, they're borrowing part of your security. When someone borrows time, they're borrowing your breath, your most sacred currency. When someone borrows your peace, they're borrowing your soul. And the soul does not give loans, it only makes sacrifices, and every sacrifice has a cost. You lent once, and it never came back the same. Not the relationship, not the respect, not the trust. And here's what no one tells you. The ones who borrow the most tend to remember the least. They forget what they owe, but they never forget what more they can ask for. You became the ATM, the backup, the fallback, the strong one they lean on but never look at, until one day your account is empty, not just the bank account, your emotional one, your energy, your joy, yourself. And then they say, "What happened to you? You used to be so generous, you used to be there for everyone." Yes, you used to be everyone's source. Until you realized that no one refills what they constantly drain. So now, before you lend, before you agree, before you say yes just to avoid guilt, ask yourself, if I give them this, what will be left of me? Because you are not a bottomless well, and your peace is not for rent. Request number 3. Can you fix what we broke? They come to you when things fall apart, not because you caused the damage, but because they don't want to face their own reflection. Can you talk to them for me? Can't you help us work this out? You're the only one they'll listen to. But let's be honest, they're not asking for peace. They're asking for a shield, a bridge, a buffer. They're asking you to bleed so they don't have to bruise. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But most people won't do that, so instead, they assign that responsibility to you. They broke the bond, they lit the match, they built the wall, and now they expect you to be the one who tears it down. You didn't ask for this. You were the witness, the bystander, the one who just wanted peace. But peacekeepers often become prisoners. Because once you step into the middle, you're no longer neutral. You're the target. You're the messenger. You're the one who ends up carrying the blame from both sides. What begins as mediation becomes a war you never declared. And the more you try to fix it, the more they resent you for not fixing it perfectly. But it's not yours to fix. Not this time, not anymore. You cannot repair relationships where both parties still choose their pride over their healing. You cannot be the glue for people who enjoy being broken. You are not the therapist, you are not the battlefield, you are not the sacrifice. You are the witness, and the witness deserves rest. You've given enough already. Years of quiet tolerance, decades of silence. Shoulders wide enough to carry everyone else's dysfunction until now. Because now, you see what's really happening. They don't want to heal, they want to hide, and they want to hide behind you. But there's nothing noble about being the scapegoat for wounds you never created. There's nothing heroic about sacrificing your sanity to manage the egos of those who refuse to grow. And if they call you selfish for stepping back, let them, because protecting your peace is not an apology, it's a boundary. Family should be sacred, not weaponized, not manipulated, not used as currency in emotional wars. Because the answer to that question decides everything.
Request number 4. Can you change who you are?
It doesn't sound like an insult at first. Why do you still dress like that? You're not young anymore. Stop talking about those old stories. No one relates to that now. But beneath the laughter, beneath the light tone, is a single heavy message. You are no longer valid. They're not asking you to change clothes. They're asking you to change soul, to erase decades of lived truth, just to make them more comfortable. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But that path is long, painful, sacred, and now they ask you to abandon it, to dim your fire, to water down your voice, to become a shadow of yourself, because that's what people your age should do. But tell me, who decided that growth must look like silence? Who told them that your wisdom has an expiration date? You've lived storms, buried dreams, built families, lost pieces of yourself and stitched them back with trembling hands. And now, because you dance differently, dress freely, think deeply, you're told to update yourself. You are not a machine. You are not a trend. You are not a relic. You are a soul. And souls don't get outdated. They get deeper. What they fear in you is not age. It's freedom. The freedom of someone who no longer needs validation to know they matter. So when they say, "Can't you be a little more modern?" what they really mean is, "Can't you be a little more like us? More shallow, more predictable, less wild, less you." But if you erase yourself just to be accepted, you'll be surrounded, but invisible. They want your silence, but your silence will cost your soul. And let me be clear. To betray your authenticity is the slowest form of dying. So say this, not with anger, but with reverence. This is who I am, not because I'm stuck in the past, but because I fought like hell to become this version of me. And no, you will not shrink to fit inside their idea of what age-appropriate means. Because who you are isn't a phase. It's the result of everything you had the courage to live through. Request number 5. Can you put my feelings above your peace? This one doesn't sound like a request. It sounds like a confession, but not yours. Theirs. I just need you to be there for me. I'm not okay when you act like that. You doing this hurts me. They're not telling you how they feel. They're telling you what to stop being so they don't have to feel anything at all. It's emotional blackmail. But it wears perfume. And it always comes dressed as love. Carl Jung once wrote, "Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment, and especially on their children, than the unlived life of the parent. And when someone hasn't lived their own life fully, they begin living through yours. Through your guilt, through your yes, through your silence. What they really want isn't connection, it's control. Not because they're cruel, but because they're empty. And when people feel empty, they project their discomfort onto anyone who shines. So your joy becomes offensive. Your peace becomes selfish. Your boundaries become betrayal. But this isn't about you hurting them. It's about them being unwilling to take responsibility for their own inner life. You're not obligated to dim your light so someone else can feel less alone in the dark. You're not responsible for someone else's storms just because they can't handle your calm. You have a right to want peace, to need solitude, to pursue what fulfills you without asking for permission. And if someone can only love you when you play small, it was never love. It was emotional dependency dressed up as concern. You will not carry guilt for choosing your mental health. You will not apologize for protecting the one thing they never did, yourself.
You tried to please them. You tried to explain. You tried to negotiate your way into being understood. But the truth is, you don't owe them that anymore. Because real love says, I want you to be whole, even if that means I don't get what I want. And if they can't say that to you, you must say it to yourself.
Final revelation. Carl Jung's warning. Quiet intensity.
These 5 requests, they may sound innocent, but they are not. They are not tests of generosity. They are tests of self-abandonment. They are the subtle weapons used by unconscious people to drag you back into stories you've already outgrown. And Carl Jung warned us, people will do anything to not confront their own soul. So instead, they confront yours. Measured tone. They ask you to carry what they won't hold, to finance what they won't earn, to fix what they broke, to change what makes you you, and to feel what they refuse to feel themselves. But your soul knows the truth. It's been whispering for years. This is not love. This is not duty. This is the price of forgetting who you are. Now you remember. If this spoke to something you've been afraid to say out loud, let this be your permission, not from me, but from your own soul. You don't need to explain. You don't need to defend. You don't need to carry what was never yours. Say it, quietly if you must. No more. No more silent sacrifices. No more shrinking. No more guilt for being whole. Your peace is not negotiable, and your truth is not for rent. Honor it, live it, and protect it. The world needs people who choose soul over performance, peace over guilt, and truth over approval. I'll see you in the next one.